As I said, we were told the size of the island. But we were also told that we probably would never be used. That two other divisions of 20,000 each were going to go first. That it probably would last 3 to 5 days. And that we probably would never get off ship. That we would never be needed. We had no intelligence of the island because we'd never been able to get anybody on it. No one knew that there were about 500 pillboxes of various sizes, one man to larger. Many miles of tunnel hollowed out in that island. And because of the number of wounded and killed the first day, about midnight, over the speaker of the ship, we were told, "You're going ashore." They told us that we would have chow at 3 o'clock. 0300, if you will. And we had steak and eggs. I've never figured out why they want to give you steak and eggs before you go to combat. We disembarked before daylight into Higgins boats. There were about 35 or so in each Higgins boat. We went out into the ocean and gathered around or joined other Higgins boats. And we began going around in a circle. Round and around. We were told later that we were waiting for the beachmaster on shore to say, "Come on in." We're still saying that on TV today, aren't we, or something like that? "Come on down," or something. But we never got that call because the Marines ashore had been pinned to the beach. There was not enough room for us to get in. We had no place to go. So they took us back and put us aboard ship another night. That blasting horn came on again at midnight and said, "Chow again, 0300. Steak and eggs." I think we're the first and only outfit that ever got steak and eggs two mornings in a row from the Navy. Back in the Higgins boats. Back in the circle. A little before noon, somebody got the signal to come on in. When we got to the beach, there were jeeps blowing up, tanks stuck, material in every direction of all kinds, backpacks, rifles. But the most vivid memory in my mind, as we got off of the Higgins boat, here were stacks of our loss, wrapped in ponchos, because we had no place to put them. They couldn't take them back aboard ship. They couldn't handle it. Eventually, as most know, cemeteries were established on Iwo Jima. by the divisions, and our loss were placed in those cemeteries. So far as we knew, once they were completed, that's where they would rest. But when we gave the island back to Japan, they had to be moved. Some came home. Many went to the punch bowl. That's where my very best friend that I've ever had in my life, Vernon Waters, is resting. When we arrived at the beach on the 21st of February, my company, C Company, had about 178 Marines in the company. I had 6 Marines in my little special weapons unit, they called it, where we had been trained as flamethrower operators and demolition people so that we could do either. But if there was not a call at the moment for either one of those operations, we were still a Marine rifleman. Those 6 individuals that were in my little unit, 2 each were placed with the companies, A, B, and C Company. My job as a corporal attached to headquarters company gave me the responsibility of making sure that when they needed flamethrowers or demolition or blasting caps or whatever, that I had them available for them. It was their job to perform the operation. Somewhere around noon on the 23rd of February, they were all gone. I never knew whether they were wounded or killed. That information was never funneled back to us. We were right at the beginning of the first airfield. Our job was to cross the airfield and attack the pillboxes on the other side that they had set up to protect the airfield. We were waiting to move out, and the Marines around me began yelling something about a flag. And then some of them were standing up and firing their weapons into the air. When I saw that, I looked around in the same direction they were looking, which was toward old Mount Suribachi. Of course, I had to do the same thing. I had to fire my weapon into the air too, because it was like a celebration. Old Glory was flying on Mount Suribachi. Eventually, we got the word to cross the airfield. There was no protection. Few craters, shell craters, bomb craters. But that's all. So we lost a great number of Marines just getting across the airfield. And then we hit the pillboxes. They were reinforced concrete pillboxes. They had used iron rods that, I guess we call them rebar today, but in my day it was just an iron rod to support the concrete, and artillery and bazookas had very little effect. They had piled sand on most of the pillboxes so that whatever hit the top would not hit the pillbox. They had all the advantage because they had open territory. All we had was the aperture in the front of the pillbox that they were shooting out of as our target. Every time we would advance, we would lose. Made several attempts, and finally the commanding officer got us offline, called for a meeting. He only had 2 officers left. Platoon sergeants were gone, squad leaders were gone. But he called for a meeting of NCOs. I'm a corporal, I'm not an NCO. I wasn't going to go. But my first sergeant told me he wanted me at the meeting. We gathered in a big shell crater so that we could stay out of the grazing fire, and that's when he asked me, as being the only flamethrower demolition guy left in the company, could I do something about some of the pillboxes that had us stalled? I have no idea my response. One of the Marines, after the campaign, we got back to Guam,